Interesting. With that, we bring in Rich Lowry, National Review Editor-in-Chief, and Jessica Tarlov, co-host of The Five. Great to have both of you here.
Hi there.
Jessica, let me start with you. What's your reaction when you hear that?
That sounds like a completely normal reaction to this. The problem isn't with DOGE or the mission of DOGE. Everyone remembers when it got announced, there were a bunch of Democrats who said, "Let me on the committee." You know, Jared Moskowitz,
That's right.
Sign me up. The problem is with what's actually happening. And if you look between the numbers, people are broadly supportive of DOGE, even the Gen Z class, but Elon Musk only has a 31% approval rating with 18 to 29-year-olds and how he's executing this. And they can see the difference between chaos and actually creating efficiency. They're looking at a world in which hundreds of millions of dollars of aid is going to perish because they're blocking us sending it out. There was a story about a 71-year-old woman in Thailand who goes to a USAID hospital to get her oxygen treatments. She died because that hospital was cut off from their aid package. They're looking at lies that have been spread.
It's unfortunate that USAID wasted so much of their own money that they put themselves in this position.
USAID is, what, about $40 billion? And you look at that in contrast.
That's a lot of money.
Well, it isn't when you look at the $4.5 trillion in tax cuts.
No matter how you look at it, $40 billion is a lot of money.
It's not. They want to take $2 trillion out in Medicare, in Medicaid, in SNAP benefits. They want to add $4.5 trillion in tax cuts, but they can't fund a hospital in Thailand so that woman can get her treatment.
Rich, let me get you in here.
Sure. So one of the extraordinary things about this moment is, like, Elon Musk is the Trump heat shield. There's more emotion being devoted to opposing Elon Musk and making him a hate figure than Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And I think the conventional wisdom about DOGE going in, and I thought this too, it'll be a think tanky type commission, Grace Commission. We've seen these things before. And as the Obama bros are talking about, you think about these ideas and you come up with things that don't make sense, and then nothing ever happens. So you have this genius who is into action, into moving fast and breaking things, and that's what you need to actually break the ice of the federal bureaucracy. And USAID was running out of control, had all sorts of priorities that no one, if they're sitting down rationally, has said, yes, this is going to serve the United States interests. So as Larry was saying earlier in the program, this is a huge audit. They're coming up with tons of stuff that doesn't make sense. And Elon himself might not be that popular, but the basic idea of going in and making the government more rational and having it waste less makes sense to everyone, because we all know that's the way government works.
It's common sense spending and shaking things up. And that's why nobody inside the government has ever been able to accomplish this. Only people outside the government who run businesses and companies like Trump and Musk have been able to actually start this process of weeding out some of this ridiculous waste, frankly. Here's the ladies at The View who are always super supportive about these ideas. Watch.
What you're doing is a lot more than just cutting fat. And nobody elected you.
Yeah,
That's the part. That's the main part. He is not elected, and he is talking about our American democracy. A man who grew up in South Africa during the apartheid era, benefited from apartheid.
So this was never a secret, Jessica. I mean, all along the way during the campaign, President Trump talked about, then candidate Trump, Elon Musk is going to come in. I think when they had discussions early on, Musk was like, this is what I want to do. I do this at my companies all the time. There is so much waste. Let me at it. And he said yes, but it was no secret that this was going to happen.
No, absolutely not. Some people were caught flat-footed on it. A lot of people have been, feeling pretty left adrift, let's say, by Democratic leadership in terms of the messaging about this. I'm not interested in pillaring Elon Musk. I have tremendous respect for him. And liberals, we used to love him, right? We're driving around in our Teslas, though the stock price is not doing so well lately. But the real issue here is that he's talking a big game about transparency, but he's not being transparent himself. This idea that Elon Musk shouldn't have to do financial disclosures like everybody else who's working in the government is ludicrous.
The New York Times, the DOGE website.
Also, when you pull it up, it's empty right now. And President Trump said yesterday, oh, well, he doesn't need to do it. Caroline Leavitt has said he doesn't need to do it. The New York Times is reporting that at least 11 of the federal agencies that they have gone after have open complaints, over 32 open complaints into Musk's businesses. Don't the American people deserve to know? He has tens of billions of dollars in government contracts. If you are the DOGE master, then open up your own books. That's part of the federal government. They are spending money on Elon Musk
Rich,
and all this technology.
Can I address the unelected thing? Because this is such a canard. No one in the executive branch, besides the president
None of
and
the
vice
cabinet
president, is
members are
elected.
elected.
No cabinet members. None of these unelected bureaucrats. And the whole point is the bureaucrats aren't elected, right? And Elon Musk is technically a government employee now and an agent of the president of the United States who was elected and reflects the will of the American people. As you said, this was open. It wasn't secret. He said, I'm going to do this. Yeah, I love Elon. I'm going to have him take a look at the government and kick the cans on everything, kick the tires on everything. So it was part of his mandate to do this.
Yeah. I mean, there is information on the website. I looked at a number of things on there this morning. And, you know, I think you're right, Jessica, that you do have to be very transparent about what we're doing here. I just think that in some cases you have to scrap and you have to start from scratch.
But there
and
is
you have to
a
say, what's a
procedure.
valuable expenditure of money? What is, you know, I mean, President Carter started the Department of Education. President Trump can end it. It was a presidential edict that developed that agency. It has failed miserably, and a president can dissolve it.
I have a child that is going to be heading into kindergarten. We are touring our local public schools. I'm thinking about all of these issues. But when you're saying that it hasn't been done before, the Clinton administration did it. They had the National Performance Review. It was headed up by Al Gore, who was elected. They cut over 400,000 government regulations and agencies, and they went agency by agency and made smart decisions. That's the way that you do this. This money was appropriated by Congress. Three branches of government.
Well, Congress has a responsibility to watch our tax dollars. And if there is waste and abuse and fraud, today they testified that 20% of government expenditures are waste and fraud. 20%. A corporation has a 3% top threshold of waste and fraud. So we need to, you know, we're going to have to break a few eggs in the process.
They're too expensive, Martha.
Thank you very much, you guys.
Yeah, no one can afford to break eggs.
We'll see you on the 5. Thanks, you guys.